You have done it. You've watched as many cash stuffing videos as you possibly could, and you have decided this is pretty rad. You're ready to get started with it, but you're still struggling on the how. Everyone does it so differently. We have different categories, different amounts. How do you know what's right for you? If you're new to Two Sister Bees, I'm Jen, and welcome to the Hive. In today's video, I'm going to go over 4 common ways that you can cash stuff. I'm gonna explain the why to each one, and more importantly, the how. Let's get into it. The cash envelope system has multiple ways that you can use it to help you. You can control your spending, get out of debt, save an emergency fund, and start investing in your future. Now, as I said, I'm gonna go over 4 different ways of cash stuffing so that you can choose which one, or maybe even more than one, is right for you. I want you to listen for the situation that sounds like you and get ready to write down what you need to do to start budgeting and saving this year using the cash envelope method. So the first method is what I call the on-the-go method. Does this sound like you? Do you stop at the convenience store and buy the same drink every day? Do you stop at Starbucks more than you should? Do you go to drive-thrus, spend more than you wanted at Target? If this sounds like you, the cash method could be a huge money saver for you. You don't have to do anything too involved to do this one. You're basically just dipping your foot in the pool of cash stuffing. Now, how do you do this? All you have to do is set a spending limit. You're basically making a contract with yourself to only spend a certain amount each pay period. And here's an example. Say you've given yourself a limit of $50 a week. That's your limit. You go to the ATM and you get your cash out every payday. Once you have spent it, you're done until next week. That's it. Very simple. And if you are in this category, you also might be someone who feels like doing a budget is just something that deep down you think you would never actually do. I recently heard an idea that may end up being so eye-opening after you do it that you change your mind.
Hit me.
There was this couple that did not want to write down a budget. So instead, what they agreed to do was set a shoebox by the front door and get receipts for everything they spent for the day and drop it in the shoebox as soon as they got home. And at the end of the month, they categorized their receipts and added them up, and they could not believe how much they were spending. So if you try this at the end of your month, I have a feeling that you'll be a little surprised, and then you might be a little more inclined to get your spending plan in order. On to the number 2 method, and this is called the monthly bill method. And now we're really gonna get into the cash stuffing. This might be for someone who is just starting out in life, paying bills for the first time, or even someone that has had to start over. If you're finding that when a bill is due and you either don't have the full amount or paying it has you scrambling till your next paycheck, the monthly bill method would be for you. Now, if you are this close to living paycheck to paycheck, I would not recommend pulling cash from your checking account to cash stuff. Now, hold on. That doesn't mean you can't cash stuff. You just need to get some footing and make some traction first. This method will help you to get into a solid routine that will then give you that breathing room that you've been missing. At this phase, you don't want to get confused or overwhelm yourself with too much too fast. So let's see how to do the monthly bill method. Step 1, get all of your bills written down and do your zero-based budget if you haven't already. Maybe this is the first Two Sister Bees video you're watching, and if you don't know what a zero-based budget is, I want you to watch our video on doing your own. I don't want to get too in-depth today on the how to do your budget because that video will explain everything from start to finish. Today's video is meant to be the next step of actually using it. We are going to see what you do now that you have your budget, and we are going to use a mock budget to help you see exactly how to do this. And we are going to call this person Nicole, which is my oldest daughter's name, and I actually did use a lot of her actual numbers to show you guys in this mock budget. And this is her month of January monthly budget. And I used numbers based off of someone who makes $40,000 net income, which is $3,076 per month. Now, Nicole also does a side gig of DoorDash, which brings her in another $400 per month. So her income is $3,476. She wrote down each paycheck and her DoorDash money. And we'll go through this really quickly. She's got her living expenses, rent. If you notice over here in the corner, I wrote 25%, and that's just a quick reminder that your house payment should never be more than 25% of your take-home pay. We've got electric, water, waste management, and phone, and her car payment, again, 10%. Your car payment should never be more than 10% of your monthly take-home pay. Then over here, we've got car insurance and gas. Groceries, $100 a week, household items, pet care, and her cosmetics and toiletries are up here in the corner. Down here, we've got her student loan payment, 2 credit card payments, and oh my goodness, 2 Afterpay payments. What did you buy on Afterpay, Nicole? Now keep in mind, Nicole's health insurance is deducted by her employer, so that's taken care of. And we've got all of her living expenses for the month and her income written down. So week 1, all of these bills have already been paid with her last paycheck from December. So as you can see, she's marked these off. Those are paid. And we're going to take a look and see how she did with this pay period for these bills. And then we're going to set her up with this pay period for these bills. So let's take a look at her first pay period of January, January 5th, and see what she did with this budget. She wrote down her income for the week. She divided all of her bills by 4 because she has 4 paydays in the month of January, and that gave her all of her numbers. So for this one, she budgeted everything she needed to, and she paid her water, electric, Wi-Fi, and her other Afterpay payment. These bills have been paid with her January 5th payday. She paid all of these off. So over here, she's got her income is $869 minus her bills were $699, and that left her with $170. She's been saving up to put a $200 buffer in her checking account. She's up to $80 so far with the $50 she added. So $170 minus the $50 leaves her with $120. And she went over here and put that $120 towards her $1,000 emergency fund. This is a great job on week 1. Now today is the 12th. Her paycheck hit her checking account, and she needs to have all of these budgeted. So let's see how she did this past week. All of her bills are okay, but what she did this week was she went over on her groceries by $28. She splurged on a face moisturizer she saw on Instagram that was $55. And she forgot to pack her lunch one day this past week and spent an extra $13 at In-N-Out for lunch. So let's add up that overspending. She went over 28 on groceries, 55 for the face moisturizer, and 13 at In-N-Out. So she is over by $96. Now, as I said, she's trying to build up a $200 buffer in her checking account. She's gonna have to bring that down to 0 and take that $80. So now she's still short 16. And Nicole knows if she keeps doing things this way, she's never gonna reach that goal of her $1,000 emergency fund. She has decided to start cash stuffing to keep herself from overspending again. And her new envelopes are going to be groceries, cosmetics, and her $1,000 emergency fund. She's starting with the 2 things that she's already seeing she has a good chance of overspending in, and she's thinking if she uses a tracker to save up for her $1,000 fund, seeing the cash build up and watching the progress on the tracker will keep her more motivated. So for her adjustments for this week, for January 12th, as I said, she's gonna have to take her buffer down to 0, which means she's only gonna have 50 from what she put in this week. instead of adding to the 80 and having 130, so that kind of hurts, but she's got her 50 out of her 200, and that still leaves her $16 short. So she's already got 8 in her cosmetics. We're going to take that, so that's 8, and then she's going to have to take her grocery budget down to 92 this week instead of her full 100. So we're going to check off groceries, cosmetics, and her emergency fund as cash envelopes now, so that this doesn't happen again. So if you notice, doing a budget and writing down your numbers every pay period is going to catch these problems before they get out of control, and they give you the chance to adjust, changing your behavior. Here's the math for the week. She made $909 in income minus $591 for the bills, left her $318. She put her $50 buffer in the checking account, and that leaves her with $268. Groceries is getting 92. Cosmetics is getting 8. And that leaves the emergency fund with 168. And these three total the 268. So she's done her zero-based budget. She's given every dollar a job. Now we're gonna fill out the teller slip. So let's put those on her cash planning so she knows what denominations to get from the bank. Groceries is getting the 92. Cosmetics is getting 8 for this week. And the emergency fund is getting a total of 288. And that's because this week she has 168. And from last week, she's already got 120 in the bank, and she's gonna pull all of that out now. So to get your $92, you would need 4 20s, that's 80, 90, 92. And then for your cosmetics, $8 is 5, 6, 7, 8. And then for your emergency fund, she'll need 2 $100 bills, a $50 bill, 70, 80, 85, 86, 87, 88. So total is 2 $100 bills, 1 50, 5 20s, 2 10s, 2 5s, and 3 6, 8 1s. Now she's going to take these amounts and go back over here to her bank teller slip that's attached to the budget sheet, and she's going to write that she needs 2 100s, 1 50, 5 20s, 2, 2, and 8. Let's add this up. 200, 50, 100, 20, 10, and 8. That is $388. And let's double check that that's what she needs. 92 plus 8 plus 288 is correct, $388. So now it's time to take the teller slip, put it in your wallet, and get to the bank. Okay, we are back from the bank, and we have the cash for Nicole's first cash stuffing of $388. And make sure that's what she has. 100, 200, 250, 270, 290, 310, 330, 350, 60, 70, 75, 80, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is correct. We do have 388. So now we're going to get the cash planning sheet, and we're going to look and see that she needs 4 20s. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 10 and 2 1s. And that will be her 20, 40, 60, 80, 90, 1, 2 for groceries. So let's go ahead and stuff her first envelope. And then next for cosmetics, she needs 1 5 and 3 1s. 1, 2, 3 for $8. And then for her emergency, we should have 288. 1, 2, 250, 270, 280, 85, 86, 87, 88. And we do. And at $10 a honeycomb, we went ahead and colored in 28 of them. And over here, I marked an 8 for the 288. So Nicole is done, and she has a much better chance of staying on her grocery budget and avoiding social media ads now. She knows where she overspent in her second week of budgeting, and she was able to make the changes moving forward. And now we're going to move on to method number 3. And this one is called the discretionary spender method. And this is for those of you who have a larger buffer after your bills are paid each month, but you sure don't see it. No matter how hard you try to save, your checking account seems to sit at that same amount every pay period, and you're baffled as to how this happens. This isn't an income problem. This is an overspending problem. And I know this because this was my category. I felt like everything was a need and I needed it immediately. And I couldn't say no to the kids when they asked for anything. If I didn't feel like cooking, we just ordered out. We were not budgeting and not thinking about our future selves at all. So for this category, everything that applied to Nicole in our last example applies to you too. You need the budget, you need to know your numbers and what you have left after your bills are paid each pay period. Now, once you have that number, like where Nicole's was $174 a week, maybe yours is $550 a week, but you certainly don't ever see that $2,200 at the end of the month hanging out in your checking account, right? Now, as always, here I'm going to reiterate Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. Now, step 1 is our $1,000 emergency fund like Nicole was working on. Now, if you have $1,000 set aside in a savings account, you would then move on to step number 2, which is to pay off all of your debt except your house. So with that in mind, let's get control of that discretionary spending so we can begin to send higher payments to your creditors and be debt-free. And you can get there by using the cash envelopes. Some good ones to start with are online spending, your kids or grandkids, personal spending, takeout, entertainment or nights out, birthdays, beauty appointments or haircuts, and anything else that you can think of that you know you're spending maybe a little too much money on. And what you do is you take these categories and you give yourself a spending limit for each one. So let's say you give yourself a spending limit of $50 a week for your online shopping. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you want to spend all $50 every single week. And even if you do the first few weeks, but you don't go over and you used to spend $75 a week or maybe even more, that's a win. You are learning to adjust your spending to your limit and create new habits for yourself. Now, once you get this discretionary spending under control and you've paid off all of your debts, you have just opened up a whole new side of cash stuffing that is all about being prepared and putting your money where it belongs. And this next phase of cash stuffing, method 4, is our sinking funds cash stuffing. And this is probably the most satisfying. When you have your emergency fund saved up, your overspending under control, and all of your debt out of the way, it is now time for your sinking funds. And these are long-term savings for bills that you know are coming. And some examples are 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses, which means you are fully funded, house taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA fees, your kids' graduation or your grandchild's college fund, car maintenance, medical expenses, home repairs, Christmas fund, and so much more. These categories may seem like a far-off fantasy for some of you watching, but if you add up your car payment, your student loan payment, and all of your credit card payments, how much is that? If you weren't sending all of those payments out anymore and you could just keep all of that money instead, how life-changing would that be? I can tell you from experience, it is a complete 180. With every dollar budgeted for, each purchase tracked, and debt by debt getting marked off, the feelings of stress and the anxiety of the unknown start to lift. Remember, life doesn't happen to you, it happens because of you. Now, where were you on this list of 4? Maybe you can relate to even a couple of them. Maybe you need to cut your discretionary spending, could use some self-control at Target. Maybe you are wanting to be able to pay your bills and not worry that something is going to bounce when it comes out. Use one of these methods and make some changes starting today and see where you are next week, next month, and next year. Look below in the description. So many things there to get you started, keep you motivated, and help you progress. A no-spend workbook, a how to save up your first $1,000, and a complete plan to get out of debt, just to name a few. Comment below which method you are either already doing or which one you are going to be starting and why. Let's read about each other's whys and get motivated. And let's also talk about the freebie printables linked in the description below for you guys to get you started with your cash planning. We've got the budget sheet with the teller slip, the cash planning, the emergency fund tracker, and I just added today this spending tracker for you guys. And there is a lot more down there. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and be part of the Hive. If you are wondering how to start cash stuffing, click here and check out my latest cash stuffing video where I answer questions from viewers while I fund all of my savings categories.